Okay, so we are going to look at computing a new variable. And this is something that's going to be useful for you in the event that you want to create a new construct that perhaps um, you see a few items on your variable list that kind of get at a wider or a broader concept, but in and of themselves, they don't fully capture it. For example, let's say we wanted to look at a construct of misogyny and its effects or its relationships with marital status. Now, there's not a variable in this list named misogyny, but there's a couple of variables that perhaps point in that direction. And the two that I picked out for this exercise are men make better political leaders than women do, and men make better business executives than women do. So, the first thing we're going to do, well, actually, the first thing we want to do before we start combining new variables is looking at the values. And this is just good practice no matter what variable you're tinkering around with. And so we can see that this one has a 1 representing agree strongly and 4 representing strongly disagree. We look at our second one, and it's the same thing. Now, this is exactly what we want. It's not going to make a lot of sense to combine these if the numbers that we're combining doesn't mean the same thing, or they don't mean the same thing. Now, if they happen to be different, we do have some options with standardizing our variables, but that is for another week. I think we might be looking into that next week. So next, we go up to transform. We go to compute variable. And what we want to do is create a new variable that has the same values as those two. So we want a 1 representing strongly agree, and we want a 4 representing strongly disagree. So first we're going to name our target variable. We're going to name this misogyny. And I hope I spelled that correctly. And we want to average these two variables. So we're going to add them together. If I can find the plus sign. And we'll take whatever new value we have and divide it by 2. We hit OK. And voila, we created a new variable here. And we're going to do a couple things just to clean things up a little bit. We're going to take out the decimals because we don't need them. And we're going to rewrite what these mean. So we're going to say a 1 represents strongly agree. A 2 represents agree. 3 represents disagree. And a 4 represents strongly disagree. And I didn't pick these out of thin air. These are the same values that both of the variables we combined had originally. And we'll just investigate this quickly on our data view. And we can see that we have a misogyny category, and we have values 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I have it set up here so that our values, the lowest value and the highest value, actually says the string that we have attached to it. One option you have here too is to click this button up here where it's got an A and a 1, and you can see the numeric representation, and you can click it again and also see the labels. Now, I wanted to do one more thing for this video, and that is to take this one step further. So we computed a new variable, and I want to recode it. And the reason I want to recode this variable is because these numbers aren't actually intuitive for the name of the variable. So when I name a variable misogyny and we have a scale 1 through 4, what's going to be most intuitive is having the higher value represent whatever this is to a higher degree. So just intuitively, we want the most misogynistic people to have the higher value. So what we're going to do is utilize what we looked at in the last video and recode it. So we're going to go up to transform, recode into different variable, and we're going to find the new variable that we just constructed. And we're going to click old and new values, and we're just going to reverse the order of what we have here. So we want a 1 to represent a 4. Oh, oops, I already have these all set up here. So let's pretend we don't. And we are going to have a 1 represent a 4, a 2 represent a 3, a 3 represent a 2, and a 1 represent a 4. Oops, a 4 represent a 1. We'll hit continue. So that's good to see that we can do things other than ranges. We can also just do a 1-for-1 value exchange, and we can even boot values out of the mix with system missing. So we'll hit OK. We're just going to say misogyny recode, and degree of misogyny for a label. Change that. We'll hit OK. And we're going to go back to our data view and just verify that up. And I also want to take out these decimals. We're going to go back to our data view and just verify that we have opposites here. I'm going to go ahead and click this button and just see that a 3 represents a 2, a 4 represents a 1 represents a 4, and so on.